got it. Oh, shoot. All right, now we're on.
Okay. And we're going?
Yeah, we're on.
Michael Shore here, obviously in Farmville, Virginia, for the vice presidential debate. Nothing really more exciting. I'm asking Ben Jacobs, I'm pulling him away from the most important thing going on tonight, which is the Orioles-Blue Jays game. But the second most is the vice presidential debate. Going to bore you for a second. No Jose Bautista. Is there anything? I mean, listen, if the Mike McCurry, Frank Fahrenkopf intro is any indication, this is going to be a crazy night.
Well, I think this will be an interesting night because this is going to be a debate about Donald Trump, just like the last debate, that for all the descriptions of Tim Kaine and Mike Pence as relatively bland, boring guys, they're people with actual long governing records and actual histories of accomplishing things, and we won't hear anything about that tonight. This entire debate, as Clinton campaign manager Robbie Mook made clear earlier, is going to be a referendum on Donald Trump. And that Tim Kaine will bring up Donald Trump, Mike Pence will have to defend him as best as he can, and we're just going to have to deal with 90 more minutes of two people, both of whom are accomplished men in their own right, rehashing Donald Trump.
Okay, but don't you think, though, that Mike Pence is going to have to answer for how can you support a guy like this? I mean, you are the conservative, you are the one who is against, gay rights, has been historically. Isn't there going to be any picking on that Donald Trump would pick someone who could be so divisive politically?
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like you to join
I think there may be some discussion of Pence's record, but let's keep in mind that it's hard to think of anyone who could be described, more divisive than Donald Trump. That say what you will about Governor Pence, about his record, and there's sort of raft of controversies, particularly on LGBT rights issues. But that pales in comparison to what Donald Trump says on a normal weekday. And that's going to be the focus. That's what people are concerned about, that there's no concern that Kelly Ayotte, the Republican senator from New Hampshire, had a statement retracting the fact that she called Donald Trump a role model last night. She could have called Mike Pence a role model safely. That say what you will about Mike Pence, that he's someone who's, considered to be a nice guy, a decent man, despite the fact people have deep ideological agreements with him. And the debate's going to focus on Trump, not Pence.
Okay, so I'm Kaine, you're Pence. I say to you, Governor, how could you run with this guy?
Pence would respond, of course, by going on the offense about Hillary Clinton, which I think is how many Republicans have done that, by making this a referendum, by describing Trump as the lesser of two evils. That Pence is certainly friendly with Trump, close with Trump, but I think there's a level of being prepared enough and being prepared to pivot to that if the approach that there seems like they're going to take is to make Kaine answer for Hillary Clinton rather than try to answer for Donald Trump.
And finally, Michael Bourne was acquired after the trade deadline. He's starting in the playoff game. Why would they do that?
Defensive reasons, that he's at speed. He adds stuff that they've had real issues with their hole in right field. And that in left field, Bourne's done a solid job. He's been hot down the stretch. And I think he'll be a valuable contributor.
And that's what people are going to be talking about tonight more than this debate, right?
Depends on how the game goes.
All right, Ben. Ben Jacobs of The Guardian, always a friend to TYT. But yeah, what Ben was saying is true. There's a lot to look for in this debate. Historically, vice presidential debates have done nothing. This is going to be a dull conversation. It will probably touch on more issues than the presidential debate, but that is not what this election has been about. It's not been pulling that focus. And again, it doesn't matter. This is an audition for the vice presidency, which is, can this guy be presidential? And I think a lot of people are going to come away from these debates, people who don't like their own nominee, saying, I wish we nominated that guy, certainly in the case of the Democrats, and maybe in the case of the Republicans. But I think the Republicans are going to probably be on the defensive, a little more than Ben thought, with Mike Pence's record. I think that's how Kaine's going to play it. Kaine is a nice guy, but when he wants to turn it on, and this is how dull a guy I am, I went back and looked at some of his old Senate debates, literally, and he can be mean. He can turn on the mean. So if Tim Kaine does that tonight, he could come away with the kind of zinger line, although it's hard to put zinger and Tim Kaine in the same sentence. He could come away with the kind of zinger line that maybe someone like Lloyd Benson did when he said that you're no Jack Kennedy. That's never happened before, probably won't happen again. It's likely not to happen tonight because they're not really challenging the sort of the gravitas of Mike Pence. What they're going to try and do is make Mike Pence look irresponsible for the way he's governed Virginia, but governed Indiana, but more irresponsible for saying yes to the not running mate status that Donald Trump offered him. So I think what you're going to find tonight is that a lot of people are going to come away from this looking for things to talk about. These guys are prepared. They've done this before. Tim Kaine actually stayed home and watched the last debate. The Republicans sent Mike Pence to the last debate for the only reason being so he could get a sense of what the electricity is like, what this kind of up-tempo debate, this big stage is like for someone. It was probably a wise move, but we'll see how it plays out tonight. These are two polished politicians. I think Mike Pence is going to have to defend some of his congressional record, and I think Tim Kaine's going to have an easy time doing that. Also, we are in an area where civil rights has such history here. The real challenge in 1951 to Brown versus Board of Education in the school desegregation fight happened here at Moton High School. It was arranged by a 16-year-old named Barbara Johns. There were a lot of students. It's right across the street from where we're standing. We did a whole civil rights piece, Eric Byler and I did today, and it's going to be really interesting. So I want you to watch that, but I also want you to watch, Tim Kaine was a civil rights lawyer. Tim Kaine was a mayor in this state, a lieutenant governor, a governor, a senator. He knows Virginia pretty well, and I think he's going to try and own this stage as much as he can tonight. But again, Ben Jacobs of The Guardian was right in that they're going to make this a lot about Donald Trump, and that's all the Democrats want to do. We'll be back with you after the debate. Michael Shore, TYT in Farmville, Virginia.